Welcome everybody to the All Bullshit Aside podcast. This is episode 6. I'm David. This is my co-host Edie.
Hi everyone.
And in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, we brought back my son, David Jr.
Hello.
To talk about a little bit of his experience growing up.
All right. Well, David, we wanted to go ahead and acknowledge, start with the loss of your mom. She was killed by a drunk driver, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I don't know how, you've helped yourself to deal with that. Have you gone some counseling or what have you done to help with that situation?
Obviously this, a lot of people, I don't know if they do know or not, but this incident occurred when I was 4 years old.
Right.
So, I was very young at the time and I didn't really comprehend what was going on. So I think when I was young, you did put me through counseling, but
we did. We had like the police department that was in charge of the case. They had their own like a therapist kind of detective where he was meeting with us once a week to talk as a little family group. Mainly it was for my son and my stepdaughter. A lot of people don't know this happened on Christmas Eve of 1999. So as it is, that alone was hard, during a very special holiday and how small they were. So yeah, they did go through their counseling, but they were so small that they weren't really, comprehending what was going on.
Right.
I think my stepdaughter a little bit more than him because he was only 4. He was just kind of going about life. I would buy him toys. He was just kind of staying busy. Mm-hmm. She was the one that was really, going through it. And I really didn't see it because I felt like the counselors were doing their job. Mm-hmm. But like he said in our last episode, it was family. It was family. Mm-hmm. It was either my family, it was his family. Everybody, they were always surrounded by somebody just to kind of keep them occupied.
Yeah. So you definitely that helped a lot with
it helped.
void.
Yeah, but once the as time goes on, families they kind of separate and they kind of they live their own lives. I kind of that's when I started kind of like, man, what's we used to all be together and now we're not. So that kind of did affect me growing up and wanting to be with my family, but I couldn't because it wasn't the same as it was.
Do you feel at what age did you really experience depression?
Probably in my teen years, I started being sad because it's like, you grow up and you see, kids with their moms and, being, celebrating Mother's Day and this, that, and you're just like, well, damn, I can't really do stuff like that. Wow. Just little things like, Christmas. I know, especially like he said, this event happening on Christmas Eve, it was like, man, I just dreaded the holidays. I just dreaded Christmas because it's like, it was a constant reminder of what happened. Yeah. So it was just, I used to just hate Christmas all the time.
Definitely. I know when we first met, the holidays was huge.
Oh, yeah.
As far as talking about, depression and anxiety and the loss of, you were married for 22 years or
so it was one of those things that was so traumatic, like everything's gone. I no longer have my house. I no longer have this something that I look forward to, the holidays. It's gone. So so it was like another loss. So when I think I've talked about this in the past, when I got divorced, it felt like a death. It didn't feel and it took me back to when I lost his mom. It just took me back to that. So now I'm dealing with the divorce. My kids are not around. And then reminders of my, ex relationship with his mom. You know what I mean? With that relationship with my ex. It was just traumatic. So I could totally understand how people fall into depression, into drugs, into alcohol. There was a time where I was like, they're weak. Like, what's wrong with you? And then being there, it's like, damn. Because you have to numb. You don't know how else to numb. The feelings are horrible. Right. When you go through anxiety, depression, it's horrible. You feel like you don't want to be here anymore. Right. So for me to stop feeling that way, it was drugs, alcohol. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, with my own personal experience, just I have the loss of my parents both to cancer at a young age, and also different. I was married many years ago, and then I had recently a 5-year relationship that I thought I was going to be with them for forever, but you get to a point as a female for speaking for myself is, what's wrong with me, or, and you start looking at just the outward, the inward, and you have to understand that, you have to deal with your childhood, childhood wounds, which I think you talked about as far as, taking it back, because a lot of people who do therapy and counseling, that's what they talk about. You take it back. And I've learned a lot. And I'm processing. I'm currently, in counseling, and I recommend, anyone, female, male, even if you think you're fine, talk to somebody and you get to know yourself. You get to learn. You get to realize that what you went through is the past, and who you are is what you make it. And you have a choice every day. And if you don't have that courage, please seek help. We will be posting some numbers in websites so that if you're unsure of who to call, I know a lot of teenagers that are going through it right now. Family members that are going through it right now too. So please, reach out to who you feel that could help you. And if not, contact David or myself, and we will definitely get that support for you. As far as David, for you, I know one thing that you've mentioned is that you do suffer with PTSD.
Yeah, so I was in the Army. So I, being 17 years old, I signed up to be in the Army. I went straight after high school, and I did that. I did my job, which was an artillery. I was artillery gunner, which is somebody that just gets paid money to blow stuff up. So I mean, on paper it was cool, but it is a combat job, and one of those combat jobs, they require you to go overseas and fight. So about 2 years into my enlistment, I did get deployed to Afghanistan and I was part of the wind down of the war when everything was starting to go to peacetime, and like we're not gonna be fighting anymore, but we still we're still fighting. And then, once I did my deployment and I came back, I noticed that I wasn't me anymore. And a lot of my friends, a lot of my friends that from high school growing up, they're like, what's up with you, man? Like, you're not, and I'm like, it's hard. It's hard to explain to somebody like, hey, this is what I went through. And like, I always tell them like that David that you knew, he's never going to leave that place. Oh. He's there forever, and he'll never come back. And then I started noticing that at night I would wake up with terrors. I would have nightmares. I would be very angry all the time. I would have a very short fuse. I was always getting angry, and then I in order for me to cope, I used alcohol. And I was, constantly drinking. And then, after that, I used food as a coping mechanism too. So I would always eat. I gained a lot of weight, and, I was always drinking. I was just kind of had this big, fuck you, I don't care mentality. I did it, and then, it affected my, my military career because, that I just didn't want to be in there anymore. So, I finished my contract, and then, I got out, and, I wanted to, obviously do law enforcement, which a lot of people in the military do. But the issue in the military is that if you get hurt and you seek help, you're weak. You break your arm and you go to the doctor, you're weak. Just put duct tape around there and keep going, man. You seek mental help and you're weak. You can't, you're not. So that was the issues, is that we looked at it as like, I can't get help because
So you weren't encouraged to
I was
seek
not
help.
encouraged.
Wow.
And, I'm pretty sure some of the people that listen to this podcast and that were in the Army, they can relate to where, the leadership was basically saying, yeah, we have it here, but if you go, then you're going to be considered, weak, and we're not going to associate with you. So that was the big issue, is that, it's like putting air into a plastic bottle and just holding it at, you're just going to get big and big, and one day it's going to explode. Yeah. So that was the issue with me. It was, even after I got out of the military, is that I never got help. And I just, kept, working and doing my thing. And then now that I'm a police officer, is that it got to the point where the bottle exploded, and I just, I hit rock bottom.
So that was before you became a police officer?
That was actually after, kind of in the, like, in the early stages of my career, because I've been a police officer for almost 4 years now. So kind of like the 2-year mark is when I'm like, all right, I need to do something, or something bad's going to happen. I don't know what, but something bad's going to happen.
Wow. So you got help? You got counseling?
Yeah.
therapy?
So, I basically hit rock bottom, and I got help. I just told my supervisors, like, I'm not good and I need, what do I do? And then they referred me to like the the mental health people that work with us. And, I started talking to my therapist, and, I was just kind of skeptical at first, because I'm like, man, this isn't what we do, especially being like, an Hispanic male, and like growing up, we don't talk about help. We just work, and that's it. We deal with it. We don't cope with it. We just deal with it. So when I started talking to my therapist, I'm like, what's wrong with me? And, I told her, like, yeah, when I was younger, I lost my mom at this age. I grew up in, basically the hood. You hear gunshots at night, people are selling dope, and, the gang life is everywhere. Right. From there, I went to like, an unsteady, basically growing up, and not a broken home, but just not a favorable situation you want to be in. And then being in the military, being exposed to that, and now being in law enforcement and dealing with all the stuff you see now, it's like, she's like, look what you're doing. Right. Like, look, you're like, she said, there's nothing wrong with you. What she say? She put it in a way, she's like, there's nothing wrong with you, but there's something wrong what happened to you.
What's happened to you, yeah.
So, basically, I told her, she's like, look, you can't blame yourself for how you turn out, because, there was a script that was written for me where I could have easily been in the criminal system. I could have easily joined gangs. I could have easily sold drugs, but, luckily for him, mm-hmm. He was able to, like, hey man, I was in a gang and this is what happened. And, don't do this and do this and do that. So, luckily for him, I avoided that, because if it wasn't for him, I could have easily been another victim, another number in the system. Right. So I definitely, and then even talking with her, I just felt so much better after a couple sessions. Because I didn't want to take medication. I didn't want to get hooked on pills and stuff like that. So yeah, I just,
the talking with her helped a lot.
Yeah. And like I said, everybody's different, and how everybody copes with, depression and all that. And it's different for everybody. I use food as a drug. Mm-hmm. Food was my drug. And, you can't be a 400-pound cop trying to, fight somebody, because you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. So, it got to the point where, I couldn't even get out of my patrol car because I was like breathing heavy and all that. So, it started affecting my work. And then even with my wife, it started affecting our relationship, because it was, I was just getting so angry all the time, and I was like, just get away from me. You don't you don't understand. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. But, I just took a step back. I'm like, man, I can't live like this. Yeah. So
you probably were feeling, like your emotions were all just.
Yeah, it was mostly depression. Yeah. That I was feeling. And it was just like, it would just be to the point I'll just be sad. But why am I sad? There's nothing, there shouldn't be no reason for me to be sad, but I would always be sad. And I'm like, it just got to the point where, like, I didn't necessarily want to kill myself, but I just didn't want to be here. Mm. So I just, like, it was just kind of hard. It's like, I just don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to deal with it.
So what actually changed it? So what you feel like you're dealing with the PTSD still, but you're happier?
Yeah, I'm a lot happier, and definitely the therapy helped, because I noticed after that I was like I felt like different, because I was in a job assignment that I didn't want, but I kind of had no choice, and I just felt stuck, and I felt like I dreaded waking up and going to work every day, because I'm like, I don't want to be there. And so a lot of the things is like, sometimes when you're going through these things, it's just, you got to just take a look back and see what's best for you, and just, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to cry. Yeah. It's okay to be sad, but just don't let that be don't let it consume you. Don't let that be your personality, because you'll never get out of that funk. Because that's basically what it is. It's just a funk. Like, you're going through life. It's just, it's just a funk. And when you get out of it, then everything starts changing.
Well, there's the illness, and then there's also, some people are what I've been learning are born with disorders and, mentally health that do have to take medicine. But then there's also the environment that growing up and living life, sometimes life sucks and we are having to deal with the situations, and sometimes people don't know how to deal with that. And I'm glad that you got your help that, that you got, and you definitely encouraged to, anyone that is seeking help as especially a police officer, because you're out there serving your community. And then,
and that was like one of the big eye-opening things is that, you see things that the general public doesn't see.
Right.
We go to houses and there's, somebody with a bullet in their head and there's blood all over the floor. There's people that commit suicide and, half their faces over there, half their faces over there. Wow. You go and you see kids that are, being abused and tortured. And it's like, you gotta put on a mask and just deal with it. Okay. This is my job. But, that takes an extreme toll on somebody's mental health to just constantly see that. Right. There's been times where I had to go and tell this mom, hey, I'm sorry, but your 18-year-old son is dead. And it's awful. Right. You got to tell family members, I'm sorry, but there's no easy way to sugarcoat it. Yeah. You got to arrest dudes because they're beating on their girls. And it's like, and it's like this, and you're going back to a week later because of the same thing. And it's like, it's just a lot of stuff that comes with that job. And, obviously I knew what I was signing up for, but when you're actually there experiencing it, it's like, oh my God, it's like, there's just bad people in this world that want to do bad things.
There's evil.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for serving and also for continuing to serve and being there for your community, and your family, that you are about to raise.
Yeah.
But as far as David, do you have spoken about your depression and your attempt suicide, and I don't know if it was multiple times, but
no, it was just one time where I just felt like the same. It's like you feel like you don't want to kill yourself, but you don't want to be here no more. You just don't see the point. It's like, you work a lot, or it's like the same thing every day. It's like and I'm not happy. You know what I mean? So then you finally just kind of get out of that funk. It's a funk. That's what it is. And then you start seeing, you start knowing your worth, and you start seeing, the glimpses of what, the good stuff around. I don't know. Like, for example, when he went into the military, I wasn't okay with it. I know, because I knew who I am and I knew how I was going to react to it. And as I went through my depression, because, I actually thought he was just somewhere not doing much. And, when I found out the truth, it killed me. It was like, what do you mean you were out there fighting?
Oh, you didn't know?
I didn't know that he was really actually out there looking for mines and stuff. I didn't, because he knows his dad. He knew that I was going to be a mess. And I went through the same thing, the overeating, the depression. And I couldn't share it with my ex-wife because she didn't care. She was no help. Yeah. So it was just, and I couldn't share it with my mom. My mom did the same thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I could totally see how parents, what they go through when their kids are out there. There was a couple of times where I got phone calls, and when the military calls you, it says U.S. Army, and my heart would just
drop.
And it was always some kind of courtesy phone call. But I was waiting. I was always like, oh my God, I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to answer the phone when they would call, because you know what? Even married, I was still a mom and a dad, because there was no support.
Right.
There was no support from my ex-wife. So I had to be mom and dad, even for my daughter. For years, I had to be mom and dad, because there was no support from the mom. The mom thought that if she bought her what she needed, that was being a mom. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I've always had to take that role for both these kids as mom and dad. So it was like a double anxiety, double depression.
And it really never goes away, because I'm sure you still worry about him.
Even now, knowing that he's a cop, I don't ask him about it. Like I think a couple of times I asked you, right? Like, hey, and you're like, oh no, I don't want to know, because you dread it. I know he's a big tough kid. I know he can handle himself and everything, but I have this. I think I developed this little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like not a security thing, like a overprotective thing. And when his mom died, I was constantly, because I relived that moment where if I got a phone call at 2, 3 in the morning, I would panic. It's like people knew, don't call me that time because I'm gonna panic. Right. So it was always with him. I was like, be careful. Where you going with? Remember with your friends? Yeah. My daughter. Who are you gonna be? Don't be around. Right. If they're doing drugs, blah blah. Even with my girlfriend, call me when you get home. Text me. Have a safe drive. It's like it's that like
constant fear.
Like this protector.
That protector, but that you're gonna fear.
And I don't think it's overprotecting. It's just like
just a worry. I mean, it's natural worrying.
I don't care about you. Like other people, like man, go ahead, flip yourself over in the freeway. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? It's like it's for those that I care about. It's like they know. Oh, he really cares. I got my girlfriend pepper spray. She's she could probably beat someone's ass, but it's like here, take this. I can't give you one of my guns because it's not legal. But that's the thing that became a part of my life. Right. It was like. Just the protective, very protective, look around, look in your surroundings, who's there, who's that, you know what I mean? You're out there late. Don't put gas at, midnight. Put gas at,
I mean, especially right now, I mean, it's not just female, it's males. They want everybody. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They want your body parts.
Yeah. I had to stop. He actually told me, don't look at the news. Don't go on the internet when he was out there. Oh, why? And anytime I heard Afghanistan, I was like, I would hear the 6 died, 5 died. And I was like, are you all right? Where are you?
Oh my gosh.
So I got to that kind of if you don't text me back right away, I start panicking. I don't know. But I could totally relate to parents and when they're just what they go through. And some parents don't even talk about it. No. I've at least talked about it. And with counseling, I've talked about everything.
Yeah, and mental health, where this month is awareness. It's not just depression; it's anxiety. It's being paranoid. It's my 13-year-old daughter had a friend, and we're going back maybe when she was 8, and her friend was saying, I could hear her on the phone. I'm having an anxiety attack. I'm like. Who has at 7 and 8 years old?
Yeah,
I'm like,
you're not supposed to be thinking
right.
Like
and then later on, my daughter's like, I'm having an anxiety attack. I'm like, no, you're not. And I'm thinking, okay, is it the atmosphere? Is it how do you learn? How do children learn without experiencing things? And not that my daughter's never going to experience it. She's already experiencing heartache and friendship and girls that they're best friends and stuff, but. It's just life, and it's hard. Life is hard, and we're all here, better. Yeah. We're all here living, and we're able to share with you all that, you can do it, and your life matters. And especially with David, when we met, what he was going through, that's kind of where we got together to do this podcast was to be a voice, to be able to speak to people that are going through depression, that are going through a breakup, that are going through a divorce. You're not alone. You're not alone. And
I know it feels like you're alone, but you're not alone.
You're not alone.
It's like my son said, in our environment, being Mexican American or coming from that background, I never saw my dad express himself like I do. Never. And or my brother or any uncles, anybody, So for me, doing this in the beginning was more, to kind of reach to the Mexican American or the whatever. Yeah. Now it's like anybody, male, it doesn't matter what race you are, male, female, you're going through something, whether it's a breakup or loss of a child or whatever trauma you're going. It's about speaking about it, right? Because there's a lot of people out there right now that are really not doing well. I get a lot of DMs where there's you can feel the desperation in their texts. I don't know what to do. I don't know. And it's like, calm down, do this. And I get it. What we've done may not be for everybody. Right. I get a lot of people, well, how did you do that? Well, look, this is what I did, but it might not work for you. Hitting the gym, eating healthy and or just going on hikes or reading books. It helped me. Right. But some things trigger me. This might trigger you. I get people that say that if you pass by a restaurant that reminds them of their ex, they can't even be in the same area. I'm like, damn, that's really hard,
Well, you experienced that too, and I know I have too. But now it's like
you pass by things, you're like whatever, because it's like anything, time heals.
Yes,
I get it.
Yes, and it's not just time heals, but you get stronger. Yeah, and you learn how to deal with it. Now you can drive by and go to certain stores. I'm sure that that you're like whatever, but we definitely want to make sure that we share any as far as help to make sure please get the help that you need. Anything else, David, that you want to share?
No, it's like you said earlier. If we're gonna post some numbers and some websites, and maybe you're not comfortable talking to us or a family member, but there's always somebody out there you can talk to. So just don't feel alone.
As far as David, anything that you would like to share?
It's therapy's. It's okay to get therapy. It's okay to get help. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad, but like I said, don't let it be who you are.
Don't stay there too long. I tell people, don't stay there too long,
because that's when it kind of you dig that hole that's hard to get out of. Just find a hobby. I just started learning how to play the electric guitar because that's always something I wanted to do. And I'm 28 years old, and here I am. These little kids are walking out of their lesson. I'm going in. So, like I said, just finding a hobby, finding a way to escape, however it may be. And, not everybody's situation is the same. Mm-hmm. Obviously there's people that have gone through worse things than me. And, it's kind of a lot harder for them to kind of get help, which is understandable. But like I said, especially this is for like for all the veterans and the law enforcement out there, I know what it's like. Yeah.
Thank you again, and to all the veterans and currently serving. It's a hard situation, and we thank you, especially now. You're in the police force, officer. And my father was a police officer too, so it doesn't just affect you; it also affects your family, your dad, and your kids and your wife. And we want to make sure that you all get the help that you need to, because it's an ongoing process.
It's not easy, but like I said, it's just especially for those people out there, just get help, because you don't want to be the next one, the next statistic, because I'm gonna have a son and I have to stay here for him. I have to, you have to think about your family, and people love you. Don't think that because life sucks right now, it's going to be like that for a long time. It's not. So definitely, to all my veterans and all my, law enforcement people out there, just get the help you need, because, we don't want to have to bury you.
Right. Mm-hmm. And anybody who's dealing with alcoholism, people who drive drunk are probably going through something themselves. But please, take a Uber, take a Lyft, now, especially nowadays. Alcohol, drugs, I have family members who are still addicted. They're in their late 30s. It's like, life is too short, and, life is worth living, and please, get the help that you need. And thank you, for being here and sharing your story. And, David, both David.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we're going to go ahead and end here.
Yes. So like we said, if you guys have any questions, you could always email us, and we'll be posting those numbers and those websites for you guys to seek any help that you need.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.